Hello everybody and welcome to the final preview show of this year's virtual Tour de France in association with our friends over at Wahoo. Indoor cycling is changing the face of racing. Ride the revolution with your own Wahoo ecosystem. So if you're in need of any indoor cycling equipment or any cycling equipment in general that Wahoo do, make sure you follow the link down in the description. Go and purchase it from them. Not only do you help the channel out, but you also remind them that it was Pritchard that sent you, and that makes me look good, so thanks for that. Coming up in today's show, we're going to have a quick look at the brand new Von Top route. There's not much to it, but we'll still take a look at it, and I'll give you my analysis for what it's worth on that route. And then we will be spending the rest of this edition talking to Bos, who we spoke to last week, ex-professional rider for Team Sky. We've also got Neal Henderson coming up, Sufferfest Head of Science, as well as coach to our final guest, World Individual Road Time Trial Champion, Rohan Dennis. I spoke to those three on Wednesday, and I can confirm, hopefully this is coming out before any of the news has come out of team confirmation for this weekend, Rohan Dennis is riding Mont Von Top, Ventop, whatever you want to call it, Von 2 on Zwift, he's bloody riding it. So last week, Inga Bernal rides the flattest stage of the virtual Tour de France, and then you bring in individual time trial champion Rohan Dennis to ride up the mountain. But Rohan made a very good point that I'd not even really thought about when I was talking to him. So before we go and chat to the boys, let's go and take a look at that route right now. And here it is in all its glory, Mont Ventop. I mean, I've never ridden these roads in real life, so I can't really compare them. But I guess it's very similar. As it starts, what you kind of notice is you don't really see the climb in sight. You don't really know where it is. You're kind of looking for it. It's not until you go around this hairpin here that you actually start to see the mountains in the distance and know where you're heading up. And then the further you go, the more barren it gets. It gets very, very barren. And then when we get up around this area, this is kind of the synonymous area, up around where Tommy Simpson's memorial is, and obviously the top of Mont Ventoux. I mean, there's not a great deal more to say about it, really. Clearly, you can see that I didn't ride it. Clearly, you can see I didn't ride it. I did the old switcheroony on it, and I've no intention of riding that. It's far too long. But great if you want to be trying to acquire that Tron bike, or if you want something a little different from Alp de Zwift. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably do a live stream on this at some point when I find like half an ounce of fitness within myself, and we'll stream it. So be aware that we're going to be doing that soon. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? It's very similar to what I've noticed is this France section of Zwift now. It looks very similar to Yorkshire, just a bit hillier. Listen, I know Zwift have to promote their product, but if you're riding on Zwift, you know what Zwift is, right? So you don't need to be force-fed their logo and that orange colour and that blue colour every 2 minutes as you pass a flag or a hoarding or a van or that stupid dude in that Z suit jumping up and down. I think they're just missing an opportunity. Like, surely the ASO could have gone to the sponsors of the Tour de France and said, we'll hook you up with some sponsorship on the platform so you are getting coverage before the actual Tour de France starts. I think it's an opportunity missed. There's obviously a reason for it, because there's money to be made in doing stuff like that and having other people's names on the sponsor boards. I just don't understand why. I don't know why they do it, but it'd be interesting to find out why they do it and if there's any chance. And would anybody care if we saw, we see bikes on the platform. Clearly, you have to have had to pay something to get your bikes on there. Surely that would have been the case. So why not have a sponsor on the side, Vittel Water, for instance, or any other water manufacturer? We don't make water, do you? You just collect it in a bottle, then screw the top on, then go and sell it for like 100% profit. But you know what I mean, though? Like, other people within the Tour de France could have put the sponsors. Anyway, let me know your comments down below on that one. Yeah? All right, that's enough of the starter. It's time for the main course now. I sat down on Wednesday with Boswell Neal Henderson and Rohan Dennis to get their thoughts on virtual cycling as a whole, the virtual Tour de France, and obviously Rohan's thoughts on this coming season starting again. So over to you, Pritch, and take it away. Gentlemen, we're going to start with a quick recap of what happened last week. Rohan, I don't know if you saw what happened last week in stages 3 and 4 of the virtual tour, but I'm going to presume you did, right?
I didn't actually. I was training. Sorry.
If you're not involved, you do not care, do you?
I do. I did hear. I think Freddie of it won one, and was it a rally rider won the other one?
Yes. Yeah, yes. You got me thinking then. Yeah, it was, yeah.
You even know more than you. Come on.
Sorry, mate. So, yeah, Freddie Ovett took one of the sprints, and then, oh, man, Boz, who was it? You've done your research. Who was the winner?
Yeah, I actually just spoke to him.
Oh, it was Matteo. It was Matteo.
Yeah, Matteo Delchin.
Yes, I remember now.
Yeah.
So 2 people there who you wouldn't consider as people capable of, well, not necessarily not winning a Tour de France stage, but you wouldn't put them up there in like the favourites to go and take a Tour de France stage, would you? And I guess it's what we talked about last week, Boz, that the people who are doing well on Zwift, minus Rohan, are these people who spend a bit more time actually working out how the game works and having a bit more, I guess, physiological advantages towards the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with Larry Warbass actually the other day, who did a race, and I guess it was in one of the stages over the weekend. There was like a little like downhill section with like some zigzags, and he said that all of a sudden it got like really hard, and he was saying that he learned afterwards that like in those turns, like Zwift takes away the draft. And so it's like if someone, maybe has inside information on how that works, again, people who know the game and are real gamers definitely have an advantage when it comes to, those little tricks of the trade.
Yeah, I think like stage 3 and 4 was always going to come down to a sprint. They were both relatively flat stages, but when we look at stage 5, which is technically the Queen stage, it's going up Mont Ventoux or Ventop. Now, the last time we saw Rohan on Zwift, or the previous time before that, he was heading up Alpe d'Huez Zwift. So, Rohan, I'm going to bring you in on this one. What's your secret?
To be honest, I just got bored of the pace that was set. And I thought, I may as well do like a bit of a 30-minute test. And I just pressed set on my Garmin and started at my threshold. And then I thought, I probably could go harder. And then Cam Worth was there, and I'm like, I can't let a triathlete hang on to my wheel. And it was just all about trying to gap him. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I've got about 30 seconds on anyone else. So now I've just got to try and hold it. And I was watching their power, just managing what I was doing off of what other people were doing. And I could see that they were trying to surge, and I just knew that I was going to kill them. So I just did a time trial, really.
That was it, essentially. So I've had this argument with my viewers. I want to know, what was your trainer difficulty set at? Because technically, you shouldn't be able to keep up with climbers should you up a hill.
Well, over an hour, if it's an hour time trial, it's Alpe d'Huez Zwift or Alpe d'Huez is not super steep. So technically a time trial up there isn't actually, it'll be difficult, but aerodynamics still does come into play. Mm-hmm. The difficulty I've got on there is just default. But on the other races, the Tour de Suisse one, it was all set to, I'm pretty sure it's all set to realistic. And it was no different. So after 4 hours, 5 hours of a Grand Tour or any race, I'm going to suffer more than someone like Froome, Bernal, Roglic, Pritchard. Their threshold doesn't drop much after that sort of period of time on the bike, whereas mine does. But when I'm fresh, my threshold is better than theirs powder weight.
Yeah, so let's bring Neil in on this one then. Neil, do you think you could convert Rowan into an out-and-out climber who would be able to stay with the likes of Froome and G or Alpe d'Huez after 4 or 5 hours of riding?
I'd say there's definitely an opportunity there. He's done okay in a few instances. Last June at Tour de Suisse, was pretty solid in the actual race. Second to Bernal there on GC, and has had quite a few other pretty solid goes. It would take a little bit of a change, a little bit in training, but also then a little bit in mentality. It's a little bit of both. And so for right now, when Rowan's able to do what he's done at the Worlds the past 2 times, and with some of the other focus races, he's got a little bit of the eye on the prize there for some of those events for right now. But the opportunity for sure is there. Being able to extend that range to be able to do it later in the race and hold it.
So you kind of think Rowan at the minute has got the perfect physiological attributes to be a great Zwifter based on how the races are set up, how long they are, and regardless of the terrain of it.
It really definitely falls right in his strengths. So the way the races are, the length of them, the type of effort required, Rowan's definitely got has some advantages there. He's also somebody who can just turn the screws on himself. And that's another thing, that even though, yes, you're in a competitive environment in the online racing, you still have to make that like absolute personal effort and just be able to go to that place and hold it and not back off. You don't get to recover at all really in those kind of races. And so same thing in a time trial, there's very, very few times that there's actually any kind of recovery. And so that mental capacity that's also there is something that's, for sure, in addition to the physical, that plays a factor in success.
So by the time this comes out, we'll know who the team is for Saturday's event. Rowan, what are the chances that you're going to be riding it?
100%. I'll be riding on.
You are
Saturday.
riding? Oh, sweet. So they bring you in for the right time, right?
Just for the right one, which currently at training camp, and
specifically for that event.
I wish it was specifically for that event. It would make my life a lot easier here, but it hasn't been tailored to being the best possible shape for the race. So I get 1 day of recovery between pretty well my biggest training block since December last year, time-wise. And we'll have to see how it goes. Let's just say that. It's been a taxing 10 odd days I've had up on Isla at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll still smash it. And Boz, we spoke last week. We were saying how random it was to see Egan Bernal in one of the flat stages and not see someone like Rowan. And now we're seeing Rowan when the road starts going uphill.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to ask Rowan, are you going to do the race from Isla, or are you guys going to head down to lower altitude? Because that makes a big difference if you're up at 2,000 meters.
I'll definitely not be at altitude. I think that's pretty much a recipe for lose when it comes to anything over threshold and a short event. You're basically you're giving yourself a handicap of probably 10%.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, go on, Ian. You go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, like, kind of speaking to what Neil and Rowan were talking about, like when we spoke last week, like kind of the differences between virtual racing and, racing outdoors. And that oftentimes if you're in, a stage in the Alps and the Tour, a power file is so sporadic. Neil's seen plenty of power files. It's like there's an attack and you surge and you're in a switchback, or there's a downhill. which, you know, definitely favors like a light climber. Those accelerations are like what makes a heavier rider, you know, kind of struggle on a climb. I think that's where Rohan is so successful in, you know, these virtual races, is that it's just a steady effort. You know, there's no corners, there's no little bumps in the road. It's like you can, once you create that gap, then all you have to do is essentially just hold that power to the line, which Rohan, you know, spends plenty of time by himself suffering on a TT bike, which is kind of what, you know, any sort of mountaintop finish is like virtually once you establish that gap.
So Rohan, who do we like when it comes to a race like this? Because you're going to treat it like a time trial. There's no two ways about that. You're playing to your advantages. Do you like look at anybody else in the race and think, oh, they're going to be good, or they might go out early, or do you just get your head down, go for it, and then like you did with the Team Ineos one, just see where people are at, and if there's anybody on your wheel, then just kind of go from there if you can?
A bit of both. So I don't know who the exact lineup will be for each team. More or less, it's about, you probably really, for me, I'll feel it out in the first couple of kilometers. I won't make those big surges. I won't chase people going all in from the bottom of the climb. I'll probably just sit in at my tempo, which is still at my threshold, and then just see what my body's got, and just slowly ramp, and basically it just comes down to who's got the best legs. That's my tactic. Depending on how I'm feeling, obviously we've still got one other very good climber who will be starting with us. I'll leave that in the dark.
Come on.
He's a short guy, speaks English very well, but he's going quite well at the moment, and he was quite good in that Alpe Zwift race we did as a team the first time as well. So I'm sure you could figure it out from that.
Brilliant. Neil, I'm going to bring you back in now. Are you, while Rohan's out there, are you still coaching him? Are you still planning his programs and telling him what to do?
Yeah, so definitely still involved. So at a camp like, you know, that he's at right now, the team fully, you know, on there. I'm in communication with Tim, with Garrison, and with Rohan throughout. And so there's certain things that, you know, we kind of switch roles a little bit. So here I kind of just fade back a little bit and keep an eye and see what he's up to. And then in between, kind of back in, and we make those adjustments. And so this is definitely, as Rohan said, you know, this is a bigger week, bigger volume week that he's, you know, biggest volume week that he's had in many, many months. And so, you know, the preparation does vary a little bit depending on a team camp situation versus being at home. And that's another thing too, balancing those things out. And of course, the period of time in March and April of just exclusively on the indoor trainer, which again, you know, was a whole new element. So being able to adapt and adjust things is one of those parts of training that, you know, being dynamic, have to be good with that. And, you know, Rohan's a super motivated rider, and able to adjust to those different situations really well, which is great.
Oz, we're going to get your predictions shortly on who you think is going to do well on stages 5 and stages 6. But Rohan, what I wanted to know is, like, how serious do you take a Zwift event or a you know, a virtual Tour de France event?
Well,
honestly,
I'll put it like this. The last one we had with the team, I pretty well just, I wasn't too bothered of the outcome. But there's something that happens, I think, to me when I'm in the race and I sort of go, don't be soft. And just sort of get into it. It's a bit like what Neil said earlier. I just sort of, before I'm trying not to think too much about it. I'm like, I have to go on bloody yoga again. And now we're out of lockdown. It's not a daily occurrence. So it's sort of reverting back to what we were doing 8 weeks ago or so. And it's about switching on when I'm on the bike, which is what I do most of the time when it comes to these indoor trainer sort of events, whether it's Zwift racing or the Tour de Suisse that we did. you still do get those nerves. And I just try to minimize that by acting like I don't care.
I know that well. Do you think like these events will be part of your structure in your season as we develop them and they become more popular further down the line?
I think, look, it's obviously there's room for this sort of event. I think once normality comes back with road racing, it'll be difficult to make people want to do this. But I do think it's easier for people to really understand. They see the numbers, they see everything we're doing. They can actually relate in a way that all of a sudden they can go and try Alpe d'Huez and go, shit, like these guys were holding 6.3, 6.1 watts per kilo constantly for half an hour. I can't do that. If you put your proper weight in, you can't do that. And it gives everyone a perspective of what we can actually do when it comes to real racing, and you don't get that interaction when it comes to road racing and like the normal Tour de France or the Giro of World to any race. So there is a place. I just don't know how it's going to play out once normality comes back into play.
And talking of normality, how much are you looking forward to getting back on the road and getting back to normal life in the daily peloton?
It's been really good, I'll say right now, to get out of home. As much as I do enjoy my family, I think everyone, both myself and my family, were like, okay, sweet, it's good to get away for a camp. It was good to get a part of the team and just be a part of that camaraderie as well. And it actually made me really start to look forward to racing a lot more than what I already was. So, look, it's still, I think, what's the date now? The 16th?
Yeah, 15th.
15th. Yeah, close enough. I start early August, so about 3 weeks until my race, Tour de Poland, and it's going to be nerve-wracking. Obviously, you haven't really been in a peloton at all, and now all of a sudden you're getting thrown into a 150-man peloton like you were in January, and you haven't raced for 4 months. So it's almost a hard reset in that sense, and it'll be interesting to see how the skills are and what's going on in the peloton as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you're condensing the season up into a couple of months. There's people who are going to run out of contracts at the end of this year who need to put in a good performance. There are people there who haven't been in a peloton, like you say, some potentially in February, some going all the way back to potentially last year. It's going to be, everyone talks about that first week of the Tour de France being really sketchy because everyone's nervous. And surely for the first month, that's going to be the same for you lot there.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head. I don't think some guys have actually raced this year. That's going to be a rude shock. They potentially haven't raced for nearly a year in a peloton, which is, I could say for myself, I haven't properly been in a full race season since July last year, and it was still nerve-wracking for me when I got into Tour Down Under in Algarve this year, which is really only 6 months. So yeah, it'll be an interesting little, you could say, test for how this lockdown's been for everyone.
I bet. And Boz, let's bring you in on this one. Are you glad you've retired so you don't have to deal with it?
Yeah, I actually did a random local TT the other day. Rowan would hate it. I was on my road bike, but I did way more power than I could have ever done on my time trial bike. But yeah, it's, I miss the aspect of going. I miss the good days of racing, but I definitely don't miss training camps at altitude. But there's fun days, but it's just you put yourself through through hell really to get ready for racing, and then the stress and just the chaos of a peloton is. It's not always the most pleasant place to be during a stressful week when you have an important job to do.
Right, let's finish off with predictions. Obviously, we don't know who, apart from Rowan and some random person that speaks English for Team Ineos, who's going to be riding. In terms of teams, though, who do you think is going to be up there? Do you think we're going to see NTT and Rally up there? Again, these people that spend a little more time on Zwift, or do you think we'll see people coming into their own who are really, really strong up that hill?
I'm picking Rowan for the race on Saturday, just knowing his pedigree, and he's the only one I know who's on the start list. And then for Matteo Delchin, he's not going to be racing on Saturday. So he won stage 4, but he's not going to be racing on Saturday. He said he's a bit too heavy for that climb. So I don't know. Maybe I'll put it to someone on NTT. They've been obviously extremely successful. So I'm not sure, maybe one of their climbers, even someone like Bosenhagen, he's a bigger guy, but he's pretty darn strong. And, I could see them probably winning the overall event and then potentially taking another stage win.
Yeah, certainly. And Neil, how about your prediction for Rowan? Are you going to sack him if he doesn't win?
We often say that past performance is the best predictor of future performance. And so, with Rowan coming in undefeated, I'm going to say, going for the title.
Undefeated. There you go, pressure. Rowan. Rowan, last word with you then. Are you capable of keeping that undefeated record going?
I've spoke to Tim when I first got to camp, and I said I'm my own worst enemy, and he laughed when it came to this race, this sort of virtual racing. He said you shouldn't have tried to win every single one, and we probably wouldn't have put you in. So I can't really blame anyone but myself for what I've put myself through and what I'm going to probably put myself through again on Saturday. We'll see. My training load has, compared to lockdown, is 4 times more a week at the moment, and probably double what I was doing on the road post lockdown. So we'll see how it goes.
You can always blame Neil for that. Yeah, blame Neil for that.
Yeah, if I don't win, I'm sacked. Nah, just joking. Look, we'll see how I go. I'll probably act like I don't care and get into it and destroy myself one last time before racing starts.
There you go. Right. Well, appreciate your time. Boz, appreciate your time. Neil, thank you very much. Good luck, Rowan, on the weekend, and then good luck for the rest of the season, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Cheers, gents. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed chatting to those guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave your comments down below. Right, I'll pass the question off to you guys now. Who do you think is going? It's going to be Rohan Dennis, isn't it? And not because he's just been on the show, but the power profile he has, the ability he has, no one's going to beat him up there. But what's going to happen on the Champs-Élysées? It's almost like the Queen stage 5 is the daddy of this virtual Tour de France. Stage 6 is similar to stage 21 of the Tour de France. It's a bit of a procession. It's going to come down to a sprint finish, but who's going to come out on top? So, who's going to win the top of Mont Ventoux? And who is going to be taking overall victory? My money is on NTT for overall, Rohan Dennis for the Mont Ventoux. I want to say Ashley Moolman-Passio for the women on stage 5 for the women's, but I don't know if she's going to be racing, and she obviously didn't do very well last week. But this bigger mountain stage might suit her in terms of, you can't look past April Tacey after what she's been doing the past couple of weekends with these flatter stages. So April Tacey for drops for stage 6, Ashley Moolman-Passio if she's riding on stage 5. Let me know your comments down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you've not done already. We're back with more new shows and streams next week. Streams, yay, woo, woo. Till then, have a good weekend. See you there.